about to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's be free with Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free.
Good evening to you. Apologies. Good evening to everybody. Welcome to another study live stream session for the Applied Psychology course. Tonight, I've got to make sure I get this one absolutely correct. We're going to be talking about the influence of biology on behaviour and genetics. Massive warm welcome to those of you joining us live. Let me just have a quick check on the screen. Yeah, we've got loads of you there. You're obviously going to listen to the activities that we've got going on over the next 30 minutes or so, and we would love to see your responses and answers in the chat window on YouTube. If you're watching this on replay, if you're watching on catch up, then you of course can take a little bit extra time and pause the video where you see fit. I'm joined tonight by the man who I am sure is absolutely very well known to many of you who have been watching these sessions over the last few weeks. Good evening, Reese. How are you?
Good evening, not too bad, thank you, John.
That's excellent. That's excellent. I'll hand over to you then if you're ready.
Yeah, fine, that's perfect. Let's start. Okay, so this one is the last, fourth and final psychological approach in the Unit 1 exam. So I know some of you are taking the exam in January, so we're just going to try and wrap up all of the approaches before the Christmas holidays. So this one, in the updated specification, there's some additional information on neuroanatomy. So we'll be going into that in greater detail in next week. But I just want to tell you that there is some extra information which is not in your textbooks, which some of you will be following. Okay, so if we can go on to the next slide, please, John. Okay, so our very first activity, we like to use these. Just a little bit of a recap, okay, because we have covered all of these approaches beforehand. So this is just a recap of what we've covered in the previous 6 sessions. So we've got the cognitive approach. Which of these is based on the cognitive approach? Which of the 9 phrases are linked to the social approach? And then which which 3, or maybe there's more, are in the learn approach as well. So let's start the timer. Okay, write down in the chat bar which numbers relate to which approach. Okay, so we've got some answers in the live comments. Let's see if anyone has got it correct. Okay, so number 1, characteristics of memory. So that is a new part of cognitive approach. So that's making sure you know about the duration, the encoding, and the duration. Okay, number 2, the types of conformity on the social approach. Okay, number 3, influences of others on the self-concept. That's a brand new thing on the updated specification as well. Number 4 is the new parts of the learned approach of motivation. Number 5, again, it's a new part. So lots of this slide, if you want to make a note of it later on, lots of these are the new additions to the updated spec on each of the approaches. So you've got number 5, which is remembering. Again, that's recognition and recall as well. Number 6, reconstructive memory. So that is an original part of the cognitive approach. Number 7, okay, is of course one of the original points of the learn approach, often conditioning, the learning through association. Then we've got number 8, which is the interdynamics, which is part of the social approach. This is looking at group or team cohesion. Okay, so that's a new part of the social approach as well. We don't know, maybe on this slide, I actually don't know a lot about that. Look back at presentations, that will help you as well. 9, okay, which is a tricky one because it has social and it has learning theory, is part of the learning approach. Obviously, it does rely on others and the surroundings, which is why it does have the social aspect in there. Okay, if we go on to the next slide for me, please, John. Okay, so like always, there are always there are 3 main assumptions. Generally, we know about 2 in each of the main approaches, but there are 3 for the biological approach. Okay, and the first one is that it's predetermined by what is within our bodies, so what our bodies are made out of. So that could be neuroanatomy and neurochemistry. We'll learn about those later in this session. Okay, the next one, okay, is the behavior is influenced through the release of hormones and neurotransmitters, which is neurochemistry. Okay, and then the last one is a human behavior is the result of evolution. And again, we'll go through that. That will be next week's session about how evolution and how evolution, the process of evolution, causes us to behave differently. Okay, if we go on to our next slide. So because it's December and we want to get into the Christmas mood, we have a mix and match challenge. Okay, so in the chat bar, so don't forget, it is a live session as well. Write down the chat bar, link which key term is related to which key phrase, okay, or the definition. So which key term on the left, match up the definition to them on the right. Okay, so pick the letter, pick the number, make sure they match. You have 60 seconds. Can you press the starter, please?
Hold up, I am on my way. I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean. Yeah, let's go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing. Yeah, isn't that amazing? In Christmas times, we'll be chilling and having a good time. Doesn't matter if the snow
Okay. We've got some answers. Can we see if we've got any correct answers? We have indeed got a neurochemistry. Okay, so this slide here, these are all influences of biology on behavior. So basically in the first concept of the biological approach looks at all the different types of the biological approach and basically gives an insight of how they influence behavior as well. So we've got neurochemistry. Okay, this is how information is sent around the body. So this is a new addition. So while neurochemistry and brain function was part of the original specification, this has now been updated to go in more greater detail about the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system as well. We'll go through that in more detail next week. So next week's one is quite a topic heavy one. So if you are struggling on the biological approach, please come and be here next week. So B is 2, so evolution. Okay, this is a process of genetic information being passed on from generation over generation. Okay, talk about evolution, the father of evolution. You've got Darwin. Okay, so you've got the natural selection, and also you have sexual selection as well, which if you've been doing the aggression part of the course, you'll know that sexual selection takes part a little bit in that as well. C, which is force, we need to know what genetics are, and that's what we go through later on in this session. So these carry codes or a set of instructions which can relate to physical or non-physical attributes such as eye color and whether you have an aggressive demeanor. So there's now research coming out which suggests that certain genes make you more aggressive. Okay, the last one, is neuroanatomy. And this is the structure of the nervous system, how information is sent through nervous system as well. Okay, so that's the spinal cord and the brain. So neurochemistry is more about neurotransmitters and hormones. Neuroanatomy is the actual part of that. So it's the brain and the spinal cord and the motor neurons as well. Go on to the next slide for me, please, John. Okay, so this is an additional part to the new specification. This is the biological influence and in regards to personality. So if we look in your textbooks, you can go, actually, that's already we know about genes, we know about neuroanatomy, neurochemistry, and evolution. This is the new part of the specification, which could come up in January's exam if you're taking it in January, or if it's coming in the exam in May or June. Okay, so this is what is personality. So personality is a trait, within the brain, so it's how you act and behave. However, there has been some research that suggests that actually hormones and neurotransmitters, which is obviously neurochemistry, are associated with 2 personality traits. You've got introversion or extroversion, basically introverts and extroverts. Introverts are someone who likes to be within themselves, they have inner thoughts and feelings. There's been links to say that actually having high levels of cortisol and more sensitivity to dopamine levels means you're going to be more introverted. So actually there is a biological concept or biological background which suggests that's why you're introverted. And on the flip side, those who like to be, or who are extroverts, who like to put energy into other people, surroundings, may be adrenaline junkies. That's what sometimes extroverts are often known about. That's been shown to have, there's a gene which makes them more likely to be sexually unfaithful, and then also there's shown that extroverts have more blood flow to the sensory-somatic area of the brain as well. And then the opposite dopamine and cortisol levels compared to introverts as well. So there's a lot of information on that slide. That is the new updated part of the specification, linking introverts or introversion and extroversion personality traits to biology as well. If you go on to the next slide, please, John. So the red herring, we're going to play red herring. There are 4 items. One of these are the odd one out. So please write down which letter is odd one out and why. So which one of these is the odd one out? Is it the peripheral nervous system, the central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, or the conscious nervous system? Write down which letter do you think is the odd one out and tell me why. I'll give you a few seconds to get that done. Okay, let's see if we try and find if we can get the answer then, please, John. We've got some answer in the chat bar. It is, of course, D. Okay, so parts of all the other rest, okay, are proper nervous systems found in the body. The conscious nervous system, okay, while all the others are non-conscious or subconscious, okay, you do not know that it's happening. There's no such thing as a conscious nervous system, okay. The peripheral or central nervous system is an immediate response to a stimulus. Okay, peripheral nervous system means there's a slight delay, but there's no such thing as the conscious nervous system. Okay, if you go on to the next red herring, okay, which, having just looked at the previous slide or listened to the previous slide, which of these are, or which one of these is the red herring? Okay, and then explain why. So you have A, which is high levels of cortisol, B, increased blood flow to the somatosensory regions, C, a gene variant doubling the likelihood of being unfaithful, and then D, low sensitivity to dopamine levels. So which one of these is the odd one out? This is a lot harder than the previous one, but which one is the odd one out and why? So let's see some answers coming into the chat bar. Which one is the odd one out and why? Okay, go and get the answer for me, please, John. Okay, it is high levels of cortisol. All the other ones, okay, increased blood flow, gene variants, and low sensitivity are all factors due to extroversion or extroverts. Okay, the high levels of cortisol are for introverts. Okay, so it's a lot trickier than the first one, but that one there, high levels of cortisol, are for introverts, not extroverts. Okay, if we go on to the next one, okay, which of these, okay, is the odd one out? Okay, so this one's to do with the evaluation of the influence of biology, okay, or the influence of personality traits. So which one of these is the odd one out? Okay, so linked to personality traits to criminal behaviour, research support genetic influence on personality traits. Okay, research on personality traits may not be consistent. It is deemed deterministic. Can you tell me which is the answer and why? Okay, so try and get some answers. Which, why, and if you can tell me what is the odd one out and why is an odd one out, can you tell me what evaluation point is it for them? Okay, so you can see there all these evaluation points. What is the odd one out an evaluation point for? Okay, if you can get the answer for me, please, John. Okay, it's deemed deterministic. Okay, so this is actually the research point for biological approach as a whole. A, B, and C are significant evaluation points for personality traits, whereas it is deemed deterministic, okay, is the biological approach as a whole. Okay, it's too simplistic. Okay, it says that nothing else can affect the final result. If you go on to the next one, okay, so this is the information slide. So today's one, don't forget, was about the influence of biology. So we're just having a brief insight of all the different types of the biological factors on behavior. And the next thing is genetics and inheritance. Okay, so what is genetics? So we already know that genes carry information or coding, okay, to show you a physical trait or non-physical trait. Okay, and inheritance is where it's been passed from your parents. Okay, so the inheritance are the genetic information passed on from your parents. Okay, so each person inherits a copy of the gene, and these are called alleles. There are dominant alleles and recessive alleles. We don't need to go into that much detail for the psychology specification. Okay, these contribute to the development of characteristics in a person. These are then categorized into two different things, which are either the genotype or the phenotype. And you do need to know the difference between these in the exam. There could be a question stating, explain the difference between a genotype and the phenotype. And for that answer, you would say, well, genotype is the genetic information inherited from your parents at birth. Okay. Therefore, the phenotype is the genetic information that is expressed through the interaction, okay, of the environment. So the phenotype is an interaction with the environment, okay, and the genetic coding at birth, and that could be that could produce a physical characteristic such as eye or hair color. Okay, so it would be one part will be your genetics from your parents, and then there'll be an interaction from the environment as well. So this is actually the interactions approach. It's one of the few parts of the biological approach where it looks at both nature and nurture. So it looks at the nature side of things and how actually the environment can have impact on a human as well. If you go on to the next slide for me, please, John. Okay, so we're going to the chili quiz. We had this last week. So we have 30 seconds. Okay, it could be a minute. I may have changed it from last week. You have 3 different levels. You have a mild, you have a spicy, and you have a hot. I may make it longer just so you have enough time to answer all 3 questions. So don't forget, put your answers in the question into the chat bar. If you go on to the next slide for me, John, and we can go through the actual questions. So, mild 1, okay, can you define genetics? And I've just told you the answer to maybe is spicy. Okay, explain the differences between phenotype and genotype. Okay, and then hot, explain 2 weaknesses of genetics and inheritance. Okay, if you can start the timer for me, please, John.
I will do. Reese, the clock does last for 30 seconds, so I'll run it twice, okay?
Yeah, that's fine. That's perfect. Thank you. Try and get these definitions in the chat bar. Okay, so John will let you have the music go twice, so try and get some answers into the chat bar. Okay, so we've got plenty of time. We've seen some answers coming in the chat bar. Can we get the answers for me, please, John, as well? So genetics, okay, or genes, or genetics, okay, this is the informational research into genes which carry codes or set of instructions related to physical or non-physical attributes. So that can link into height, okay, hair color, eye color. It could even link into aggression. So as I said before, I know we've not done the application before Christmas. We've just gone through the basic information. Okay, so there has been research which has shown that some genes can cause aggression. So you've got the MAOA gene, okay, which can cause low levels of serotonin, which can cause people to become aggressive. So that's why it's coming into behavior and why genes is a big factor on people's behavior. There has been research which shown that there are points on there, okay, which can cause behavior change. Okay, like I said, this could easily be the next spicy could easily be a question when it comes to the exam. Next, explain the differences between the phenotype and the genotype. So you have the genotype, which is genetic information inherited from your parents. Okay, so that will just half your genetic information is from your father, and half your genetic information is from your mother. Okay, so there's going to be, so even if you're twins, there could be a difference in your appearance, and that would be due to the phenotype. So if you monozygotic twins, which is identical twins, which I am actually a identical twin as well, so we have different interactions. So me and my twin have different interactions, okay, due to our phenotypes and our influences on the environment. Okay, so actually genetically we're the same, but I am left-handed and he is right-handed. So that's going to cause an influence on our environment as well. Again, the last one, okay, is explain 2 weaknesses of genetics and inheritance. Okay, there are weaknesses on how much impact genetics actually have on human behavior. So that is one weakness. And another one, okay, is that research oversimplifies the influence of genes. Behavior cannot be caused by a single gene, but it can cause an impact. Okay, so it's not, behavior cannot be caused by a single gene. It could be a cluster of genes which then cause a difference in neurochemistry, and then obviously the effects of neurochemistry, which we'll find out next week, can have an impact on behavior as well. Okay, if we go on to the next slide, I think it's and this is one of the differences as well. One of the reasons why genetics can cause a difference, and this is why it goes into later on in the aggression and gender. This is the SRY gene. Okay, so the SRY gene is the sex determinating gene located on the Y chromosome. So it's obviously only found in males because males only have the Y chromosome. Okay, so this is for the development of male genitalia. Okay, and it's the release of testosterone. As we go next week, we'll find out that testosterone can impact behavior, especially aggression. Okay, this causes the male to be biologically male, causing differences in psychological development. Okay, due to our responses as males and females to certain stimulus, it is believed that the SRY gene in particular causes a change in human behavior. Okay, we look at aggression. Males tend to be more aggressive than females. Okay, and they believe that is down to, or some researchers believe that is down to the SRY gene alone. As we saw in the previous slide, okay, it cannot be caused by a single gene. So that there has to be, the more research is needed, but some psychologists do believe the SRY gene plays a big impact on human behavior. Go on to our last slide. I think this is the exam goal. Okay, so we've got an exam practice. You need to break down each question. So if the question was outline the genetic explanation of human behavior, okay, it says outline, okay. You're only being assessed on your AR1 skills. If those who are taught by me or some other teachers, AR1 skills is the basic content, okay, is the information. Okay, the AO2 is the application, so using the scenario and apply it to the content, and AO3 is the evaluation, the what, whys, and discussion points. Okay, you're expecting to select the right explanation. Okay, you need, as it's 4 marks, any 3 or 4 mark question, it's not just a very brief description. You may want to put an example in there and outline the genetics, basically explain the genetic explanation on human behavior. Okay, so how could it impact? You may want to use some examples. Maybe the SRY gene could be an example. Okay, you need to consider what you prioritize in your answer, because as many students find out in the exam, there's only a limited amount of time. So you need to make sure you prioritize what is needed to outline the genetic explanation of human behavior. If you go on to the next slide, this is the next question. Okay, so this is describe how behavior is influenced by the SRY gene. So break down in each question, describe. Okay, so we're going to explain. You have to describe and then use an example. Describe. Okay, you need to tell me what it is about and how this behaviour could influence human behaviour through the SRY gene. So look at the SRY gene. What does it do, and why could it change behaviour? So we already know that the SRY gene it promotes testosterone in the womb. Therefore, testosterone is any research which is linked to testosterone and behaviour. Yes, there is. So while they're not asking you to talk about actual research, okay, you can talk about explaining that testosterone can create a difference in human behaviour. So avoid the temptation of using the study, okay, but you can state that there is research which suggests that the SRY gene does cause a difference. I think that is it from me tonight.
Wow. Thanks, Rhys. You know, I find this stuff fascinating, absolutely brilliant stuff, and interesting as well. You mentioned a few times about some of the new phrases and some of the new things being tested on the spec that weren't there before, and I think that's always useful to know when something's maybe not been covered in the past. I'm fascinated. That was a little bit of news for me tonight. I wondered why I was so shy, and it appears to me my hyperactive nervous system and perhaps high levels of cortisol. At last I've got a bit of an explanation, Rhys, so thank you for that one. And the other thing, of course, that really did fascinate me, you're an identical twin, but you and your twin, one's left-handed and one's right-handed. Did I hear that correct?
Yeah, so we're what we class mirror twins. So obviously we split down the egg. So obviously when it's been split, the right-hand side that's where it's been split. So actually as well, we had identical problems with our teeth, but mirror image as well. I've done a few research studies just because I'm a mirror twin, but it is quite interesting to go when you go into the monozygotic and the dizygotic twins. There's a lot of research in there about what's causing the differences in behaviour, because genetically they're the same, but is the phenotype there, which is quite interesting.
Absolutely. Sorry, is that more common then to be a mirror twin or not be a mirror twin?
It's less common than obviously identical twins, because not all identical twins are mirror twins.
Okay, right. Well, there we go. We could carry on chatting all evening. That's wonderful. Listen, thanks to Rhys, obviously, for putting that together and delivering tonight. And also, a big thank you to those of you who took part on the live quiz. The slides are almost instantly available. As soon as I've pressed the finish button, they'll be available for you to download if you want to take a little bit more time over some of that really interesting stuff that Rhys has just been covering. And of course, you can rewatch the entire video as well. Wonderful stuff. I think we've got one session left before Christmas, Rhys. Am I right? We've got one more next week.
Yes, that's correct. It's quite a big one, talking about neuroanatomy and neurochemistry, which you've seen from tonight. There's quite a big section about it as well.
So follows on quite well from what you've been covering tonight.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant. So I'll see you next week, Rhys, and hopefully we'll see everybody else. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.